What if I told you football was invented thousands of years ago? Not in England. The game you watch, love, and argue about has roots so ancient, so bizarre, and so violent they would genuinely shock you. And the FIFA World Cup, the most watched event in human history, almost never happened at all. Today, we are uncovering the wild, bloody, and incredible true origin of football and the World Cup. Over 3,000 years ago, the ancient Chinese played a game called Cuju, where players kicked a leather ball through a silk net. Emperors played it, soldiers trained with it, and women competed in it during the Han dynasty. Meanwhile, in ancient Greece, a brutal game called Episkyros had players kicking and throwing a ball in a wild free-for-all. The Romans copied it, called it harpastum, and it spread across their entire empire, fast, rough, and totally addictive. In Mesoamerica, the Aztecs and Mayans played a ball game where the rubber ball represented the sun itself. The losers of that game? Sometimes they were sacrificed to the gods. Fast forward to medieval England. Football already existed, but it was pure, absolute chaos. Entire villages would fight over an inflated pig's bladder through the streets with no rules and no referee. People broke bones, trampled each other, and sometimes actually died playing it. King Edward II was so fed up he banned football in 1314, calling it a great noise in the city. Multiple English kings tried to ban it. They needed soldiers training for war, not kicking pig bladders in the mud, but nobody listened. The people kept playing anyway. For centuries, footballs were literally just inflated pig bladders wrapped in leather. The shape was completely unpredictable, sometimes round, sometimes oval, depending on the pig. In 1855, Charles Goodyear, yes, the rubber tire guy, vulcanized the very first rubber football, giving the game a consistent, round shape. In 1872, the first standardized leather soccer ball with stitched panels was officially introduced. The iconic black and white Buckminster ball, the one everyone pictures, didn't appear until the 1970 Mexico World Cup. Before that, World Cup balls were just plain brown leather, incredibly heavy when wet, and basically a headache waiting to happen. In 1863, England finally did something revolutionary. They sat down and wrote the official rules of football. On October 26, 1863, the Football Association was founded inside a London tavern called the Freemasons' Arms. They separated football from rugby and created 13 clear rules. No hands, no tripping, no hacking someone's shins. This single meeting in a pub changed the history of sports on this planet forever. British sailors, soldiers, and merchants began carrying football everywhere they travelled. By the 1880s, the game had exploded across South America, Africa, and Asia. Argentina formed its first football club in 1867. Brazil went absolutely crazy for the sport by the 1890s. Everywhere the British went, football followed, and local people fell completely in love with it. By the early 1900s, football was played everywhere, but every country had its own rules and no international body. On May 21, 1904, FIFA, the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, was founded in Paris, France. 7 countries signed the founding charter: France, Belgium, Denmark, Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland. England, the country that invented the modern rules, didn't even join at first. They thought they were too good for it. FIFA's mission was simple: one game, one set of rules for the whole world. Football had already been in the Olympics. Great Britain won gold in 1900 and 1912. But FIFA President Jules Rimet had a far bigger dream: a global tournament dedicated purely to football. After years of fierce debate, FIFA voted in 1928 to create the World Cup tournament. Uruguay was chosen to host the very first FIFA World Cup in 1930. Why Uruguay? They were Olympic champions and they offered to pay all travel and accommodation costs for every team. The first World Cup had only 13 teams. Most European countries refused to travel by boat for 3 weeks. Uruguay beat Argentina 4-2 in the dramatic final in front of 93,000 screaming fans. The host nation became the very first World Cup champion in history. The original trophy was called the Jules Rimet Trophy, a stunning golden goddess figure holding a bowl above her head. During World War II, an Italian football official hid the trophy in a shoebox under his bed to prevent the Nazis from stealing it. In 1966, the trophy was stolen in England right before the World Cup and found 4 days later by a dog named Pickles while on a walk. Brazil won the Jules Rimet Trophy permanently in 1970, after their historic third World Cup victory. But in 1983, the original Jules Rimet Trophy was stolen from a display case in Brazil and was never found again. Today's FIFA World Cup trophy was introduced in 1974, showing 2 human figures lifting up the earth in triumph. It is made of solid 18-karat gold and weighs 6.1 kilograms. No country actually keeps it. World Cup winners receive a gold-plated replica, and the real trophy stays locked with FIFA forever. Brazil is the greatest World Cup nation with 5 titles: 1958, 1962, 1970, 1994, and 2002. Pelé became a worldwide legend at just 17 years old, scoring in the 1958 final in Sweden. In 1986, Diego Maradona scored the goal of the century, and also the infamous Hand of God goal, all in the same match. Ronaldo of Brazil scored 15 World Cup goals, a record that stood for decades. In 2022, Lionel Messi finally won his World Cup with Argentina, completing what many call the greatest career in football history. The 1950 final, Brazil versus Uruguay, is known as the Maracanazo. Brazil was so sure they'd win that newspapers printed the victory edition in advance. Uruguay won 2-1. The entire nation of Brazil wept. Players and fans were emotionally destroyed. In 1966, tiny North Korea shocked Italy 1-0 in one of the greatest upsets in World Cup history. In 1982, West Germany and France played the first ever penalty shootout in World Cup history, a moment so dramatic it changed football forever. In the 2014 semi-final, Germany demolished Brazil 7-1 on Brazilian soil. It was so humiliating, it became known simply as the Minerazzo. The FIFA World Cup is now officially the most watched sporting event on planet Earth. The 2022 Qatar World Cup was watched by over 5 billion people, more than half of all humanity. The 2026 World Cup, hosted across the USA, Canada and Mexico, will feature 48 teams for the very first time. From pig-bladders in medieval English streets to billion-dollar global tournaments, football's journey is unlike any other story in sports. A game so beautifully simple, just a ball and 2 goals, has united the entire human race across thousands of years. Whether you call it football or soccer, one thing is undeniable. The beautiful game belongs to every single person on Earth, and its story is still being written.